Okay, in our last class, I showed you how to do some color correction. And I said later on I would tell you why we don't want to do it the way that we did it that time. Because basically what we did was called destructive editing. So when you make adjustments directly to a layer, you actually throw information away in Photoshop. So let me demonstrate how that works. So I'm going to bring up levels. And if you take a look in this levels box, this is called a histogram. And basically what it's showing you is the tonal information in this image. So down at this end, this is the shadow end. So the really, really dark shadows in this image, which there aren't a lot of, right? So we've got a little bit of dark stuff here, maybe the darkest parts of her eyes. So we're seeing a little bit of information there. And then midtones, you know, we've got a lot of those, and you can see like that's probably most of her skin tone, sort of the reds and yellows and the hats. Those are all sort of midtones. And then when we get up into the highlights, that's this end, that would be the really bright parts of the image. So like these real bright highlights in her hair, the whites of her eyes, like that's all the way down at this end here. So hopefully that makes sense to you. So as you can look, this looks like a really nice looking mountain range, right? We could go hiking or camping there or something crazy like that. But when we do destructive editing, remember what this looked like, and we'll come back to it in a minute. So I'm going to go in like we did last time. I'm going to go adjust, and I'll do my brightness contrast. And I'm going to be a little drastic on stuff just so this goes a little faster. So if I say OK, I'm going to go image adjust. Color balance like we did last time. Give her a little more red, a little more magenta, a little more, warm her up a bit. Anyway, doesn't really matter. Basically, I'm making all these changes, and now if I go back and I look at that levels again, look what happened to my mountain range. See how there's all these deep valleys and trenches and a lot of the information's missing? That's because when I made those changes, I was making them directly to this layer, and I was basically throwing away that information. So we don't really want to do it that way, because you really can't get that information back unless you do an undo or a revert or something like that. So instead, what you want to do, I'm going to cancel this. I'm going to actually throw that layer away because I've destroyed it. I'm going to make a new background layer. Remember to do that. Just to make a copy, you drag and drop it to the new icon on the layers palette. And this time instead what I would do is go to my adjustments palette. And this is going to create an adjustment layer. So let's say I go in and I want to do color balance. And I make my adjustment here. If you look at my layers palette now, you'll see that I have a new layer there called color balance. So unlike last time when I was making the change directly to the background copy, now I'm just making an adjustment layer on top of that layer. So I'm not really throwing away any of that information like I did before. So this is the better way to go. Because once you have that adjustment layer, you can always go back in just by clicking on that layer and continue to adjust. And you're not throwing away any information like we did before. Okay, so that's destructive editing versus non-destructive editing. Doing it on an adjustment layer as opposed to doing it directly on the layer.